Welcome back. You're watching Finweek Money Matters. While many of us have become fixated on the way technology has transformed our personal lives, the impact that technology is having on companies is just as exceptional. While we look at how IT has indeed become a vital business enabler and how it has attracted the much needed attention of the C-suite. Joining us at the desk is Christo Briedenhann, who's a Regional Director at Riverbed Technology, and Suren, Govender, who's a Managing Director at Infrastructure at Accenture South Africa. Gentlemen, thank you for making the time to join us. Christo, I'm going to start with you. Okay. C-suite, what is that? C-suite, they mentioned the climb to the C-suite when it comes to the role of the Chief Information Officer.
Okay, I think if you look at the role of a Chief Information Officer, we are seeing a massive change in IT. And especially if you look at the last 5 years, and you see how things has changed so fastly and so in massive trends over the last 5 years. Things like social media, the cloud computing, and I can continue about all these new technologies that are happening and changing the way IT work. Now, the effect on this for an IT environment is if you look from a CIO, he needs to say, where am I going to spend my money? What am I going to do? What is the effect of big IT on my business? What is the effect of social media on my business? Because all these things have an influence. For example, if you look at the customer, whether you look at within your own organization, within your IT environment, these things has an effect. And what the typical end user might do is say, you know what, IT, if you don't change my way I'm doing my thing, then I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start doing my own thing, my own IT and own business environment.
So, Suren, is it safe to say that chief executive officers never used to consider IT as something that deserved a huge budget allocation or something that's key to business, but now they are?
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction to make. In fact, we often talk about the role or the role of the emerging CIO, and like, let's put the I back into CIO, because that's really what is at it's almost the lifeblood of an organization, information and data. And the role of the CIO, or even having a seat at the C-suite or at the board table, we're seeing a trend of that increasing. Now, I think merged with that concept is that IT strategy, which was very, very different from typical business strategy, and business strategy today are actually very close. In fact, we cannot talk about them separately anymore because of the transformative nature of technology on modern business. And the way to actually operate in a high-performing environment is that we need to leverage technology to a far larger degree.
Are there any sort of results, maybe anecdotally, that we are seeing this have an effect on how businesses are run these days?
Absolutely. So we annually conduct research called High Performance IT, where we survey CIOs to understand, and this is over, from an ongoing trend perspective, who are those high performers and what differentiates them between, let's say, the rest of us, or the average performers. And we do find that aside from them doing strategically different things, the things that they focus on or the gaps that are created are significant. It's not a little, 2 or 3%.
Yeah, just to bring Christo in there, you recently were involved in a study where you identified transformers. Can you explain what transformers are and how you identified them?
Sure. Riverbed with Loudhouse conduct a interview with about 1,000 plus companies in EMEA, in countries like Germany, the UK, even here in South Africa. And what this entire thing was to go to a lot of the larger corporates with 1,000 and more people working in the corporate. And what they've identified is that only 25 of all these massive big corporates are what we see a transforming company. Now, if you look at what is a transforming company, is typical a company that sees the benefit of high performance. Instead of having lots of equipment at branch office level and lots of slow performance applications, to be a high performance company that really sees the top benefit and out of your environment.
Can you give us any local examples of companies who you would classify as a transformer?
We have quite a number of, if you look in the banking environment, we are right now busy with a massive big bank rollout, a bank with thousands of, or let me say hundreds of customers around the world. Now, take a bank, for example, if you sit with a branch office somewhere in Africa, how can that end user people in that branch get the massive performance? Instead of having queues and queues of people standing in a bank, the quicker they can get over perform transactions, the better for them. So yes, absolutely, we have in all the vertical markets, in the financial sector, many of the mining sector, in government South Africa, we are doing great things in our own country.
I mean, if you look at a company's website and you click on a tab that says executive team, you're likely to find CEO, CFO, maybe a corporate affairs director, and maybe that's pretty much it. You hardly ever find a chief information officer or an IT director. I mean, why are companies why are they slow in implementing this way of doing business?
Yeah, look, to some extent it's a South African trend where we have very traditional corporate setup. But on a global level, in fact, I met my first chief digital officer the other day. So I said to him, I hope you are going to be impressive because there's a huge expectation of us, people in the technology space, and especially in the digital space. Now to the point of, why are these people not on the, why are they not assumed to be in the C-suite? That's an emerging trend. We are seeing more and more CIOs and CDOs, etc., or CTOs, appearing on that C-suite, and that is significant because the role of the CIO, CDO to digitally enable the organization, which is now, when we talk about high performers and we talk about transformers, these are the characteristics that if you are ready for this newly evolved business environment, where we're not just talking about running a shop on a corner, we're now talking about having a global market with customers we never meet.
What are some of the biggest challenges that companies are now facing when it comes to implementing these new technologies and IT infrastructure projects?
Well, look, I think cost is still an issue. Certainly from a South African perspective, we ram down the throats of everybody, cloud technology, adopt mobile, etc. Mobile broadband is still a huge inhibitor in South Africa, in particular, and the resulting effect is that it actually slows the adoption of cloud, due to the cost. So that would be one factor. I think it's certainly in the South African context, security is a major issue, and combined with security would be other elements of, even just change fatigue. We are constantly asking an organization to change, and I think another big factor is, while we're trying to introduce agility into the organization by leveraging technology, that on its own introduces a whole lot of risk because it directly affects the processes of how that business runs.